In 2011, college football had a major problem. An undefeated LSU team coached by Les Miles was cruising past their competition. Only a few hundred miles up the road, one of their biggest rivals, Alabama, was also dominating their competition. These two monstrous teams and programs were setting and aligning up for one of the all-time great collision courses of all time. Leading up to their game on November 5th in 2011, Alabama played 3 ranked teams and beat all of them by over 16 points. Their closest game the entire season up until that point was a 27-11 road victory against Penn State, who at the time was a good team. On the other hand, for LSU, they played 4 ranked teams leading up to the Bama game and destroyed all of their opponents. Oh wait, did I say they beat 4 ranked teams? That's wrong. They beat 5 ranked teams before playing Alabama. They rocked Auburn 45-10, stomped all over Florida 41-11, beat West Virginia 47-21, Mississippi State 19-6, and Oregon 40-27. When these two teams finally met up, everybody was labeling it as the game of the century, and looking back on it, it's hard to say that it wasn't the game of the century. I can't remember, and I don't know if there's ever been a game that hyped up, especially in the regular season. Many people and analysts all around the country believed whoever won that game was going to go on to win the national title. You really didn't have to be a ESPN expert to understand that. But however, what if I told you the team that won the national championship was the loser of that ball game? You see, both of these teams somehow managed and found a way to meet up again in the championship, and it was terrible for the sport if you weren't an SEC fan. I remember it like it was yesterday. Everybody was saying how corrupt the BCS system is, and there's no way 2 SEC teams from the same division should be in the championship playing each other. It is a fair argument that nobody wants to talk about if you don't like the SEC. Those were the 2 best teams that year, and it wasn't even close. Last time I checked, that's what you want to accomplish. In a championship game, you want the 2 best teams, so I don't see the problem. Actually, my bad. I do see the problem. Having 2 SEC teams from the same division, same conference, is terrible for the sport. So not only did I notice that and see that and understand it, so did the people of the NCAA. So they said, you know what, we gotta change this ASAP. And what did the NCAA do? They put together a new college football playoff 14 format so we could prevent this from happening in the future. At first glance, it seemed like a dream come true for college football fans and college football in general. Everybody loved the format and the build-up. We get to see 4 teams compete for the championship, and it's supposed to be different teams every year. Fast forward in time to 2021, or technically 2022, things for college football have hit a all-time low. Why is that, you may ask? Because the SEC has literally broke the college football playoff system. What's good, y'all? I hope you're having a blessed day. I try to do this on 1 video per week, and a video I posted roughly 6 to 7 days ago, I said let's see how many new subscribers we can gain, and we gained over 500 just from me asking. That's so awesome. I really appreciate you guys, and I gotta be totally honest. Whenever we gain new subscribers on this channel, it motivates me and pumps me up to make more content. It lets me know that you guys, you actually enjoy the videos, and that makes it 10 times better to make. So I figured, hey, why not? Let's try it again. If you're new to the channel or simply not subscribed, go down there, hit that subscribe button. Maybe we can gain 500 again, and I'll tell you in tomorrow's video, or maybe in 2 or 3 days, how many we gain. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took a lot of research, a lot of time. I've spent countless hours on it. So yeah, just hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. Oh man, we got a good video to get into. It's also kind of perfect timing with everything going on in the college football landscape. If you're an SEC fan like myself, you're probably sitting there saying to yourself, yo Matt, I don't see the problem. The college football playoff is great. And I would agree, but not everyone likes the SEC. And matter of fact, I'd go out on a limb here to say it is the most hated conference because they are the best and they have Alabama. Many others would also say, and I've seen this everywhere, that Alabama itself is ruining college football. I see where you're coming from, and maybe that's a different video for a different day. If y'all like this video, it's more likely going to be a long one. We'll definitely do that. Like I was saying earlier, in 2011, that was a year where we started to see a lot of problems and people actually getting mad at the BCS era. Me personally, I didn't really think the BCS era was bad, but everyone else thought it was terrible because they're tired of seeing Alabama and they want something different. I completely get it 100%. I believe the college football playoff is better than the BCS era simply because you get 4 teams. 4 isn't enough in some people's eyes. I would like to see 8, but 12 is slightly too much. Let's go all the way back to 2011 when LSU and Alabama played. That game was in Tuscaloosa. To make an extremely long story short, field goal after field goal after field goal. It wasn't a great offensive performance. LSU pulled it out 9-6. I remember watching that game and I thought to myself, LSU was not better than Alabama, and even till this day, the only time Alabama loses is when they beat themselves, and that's what they did that night. When Alabama lost that game, there was almost no shot for them to make the college football championship. It's not like today. You don't only gotta be top 4, you gotta be top 2, and LSU was in the same division, therefore meaning Alabama was not going to be in the SEC championship. So with 3 weeks left in the college football season, Alabama only had Mississippi State on their schedule, Georgia Southern, and Auburn. A lot of stuff had to fall in Alabama's favor for them to get back ranked up at number 2. And what do you know? Everything fell into place. Alabama gets the rematch against LSU, and it was kinda unfair if you think about it, because a couple of weeks before, LSU was playing in the SEC championship. What's Alabama doing? They're sitting on their couch getting more rest and more practice. Nick Saban leads Alabama to the championship. They completely obliterate LSU 21-0. Wasn't even a ball game. Was Alabama a top 2 team, and did they deserve to be there? It's hard to say no. Taking a look at LSU, there was no argument. They were undefeated. Of course they deserved to be there. There wasn't a real conversation about, oh, I don't think we got the best 2 teams. The conversation was, this cannot happen again. Nobody wants to see it. And then what do you know? Only a couple of years after that game, the college football playoff comes to life. At the time, there was articles written talking about, did LSU and Alabama cause the football playoff? And LSU and Alabama, they doomed the BCS era. Here's my perspective and what really happened in my humble opinion. LSU and Alabama was the last straw. Everybody was already looking to get away from the BCS era, and that was the game where you could say, okay, now it's time to move on. It was a perfect storm. You know how when you're having to make a tough decision and then you see something and that does it for you? That's how the Alabama-LSU game was for the committee. A couple more years go by, the college football playoff system's implemented, and I thought it was great the first 2 or 3 seasons, and I still think it's perfectly okay. The best part about it, at least in the beginning, we were seeing different champions and different games outside of the SEC. For example, Ohio State won the championship the first year it was implemented. That was great for the rest of the country, so everybody was like, okay, the SEC isn't as dominant, and then Alabama won it, Clemson won it, LSU won it, and it's been a mix of that. Before we go any farther, let's be technical about it. The job of the college football playoff and the committee is to get and strive to get the 4 best teams. And I believe they've done that every single year. With all that being said, 2017 was the year that backfired on the committee big time. Alabama and Nick Saban in 2017 was 11-0 going into Auburn, and they lost 26-14. They lost their final game and didn't play in the SEC championship. Well, what do you know? Same scenario as 2011. They don't play in their conference championship game and sneak into the playoffs. What spot did they sneak into? Number 4. If this playoff wasn't even put into effect, they wouldn't have made the title game in the BCS era. Another team that snuck into the playoffs was Georgia. They came in at number 3. You're probably sitting there wondering and thinking to yourself, yo Matt, why is that important? Because the playoff was implemented, and I can't emphasize this enough, to stop the SEC from getting in the title game. But in this year, it helped the SEC not only get a 1 extra team in, but 2. Georgia and Alabama were ranked 3rd and 4th. If you wouldn't have expanded it, they wouldn't even made it. And what happens next is almost destiny. Alabama upsets Clemson 24-6, and Georgia beats Oklahoma. Therefore, Alabama and Georgia meet up in the title game, where Tua rips their hearts out as a freshman and wins in miraculous fashion. Let me reiterate, the problem wasn't Alabama winning the championship. The biggest red flag was was you had two SEC teams playing for the championship yet again. Do some of you understand how rare it is for two teams from the same conference to play in the national championship game? I don't think you do. And it happened not only in 2011, but in 2017. I think you know exactly where I'm going with this video. In 2021, the game on January 10th that's coming up in a couple of days, Alabama and Georgia are going to face off in the national championship for what, the second time in 3 to 4 years? That's not good for the sport. The SEC, more in particular, Alabama and Georgia, have literally broken the college football playoff system that was implemented to stop this from happening. They can say this, they can tell you that. Everyone with football IQ understands they did it so this wouldn't happen. But what's currently happening, and if they don't do something, it's going to continue to happen. You're actually giving the SEC more chances to put more teams in the title game. What they were originally thinking, I understand it. They're sitting there saying, okay, if we expand it to 4 or 8 teams, it gives other teams chances to beat the SEC. It does, but on the contrary, it gives the SEC more chances to get 2 or 3 more teams in. And I want you to really think about this. If Ole Miss doesn't lose to Auburn late in the year, they would have had a good shot of getting into the playoff. I don't think they would have put 3 teams in, but they would have been in that conversation for sure. Texas A&M almost made it last year. Once again, you would have had 2 SEC teams in the college football playoff, and they don't want that. I kind of forgot to mention and talk about Texas A&M in this video, but they do play a factor. I don't think they were close to getting in over Notre Dame last year because everyone did not want to see a rematch of Alabama and A&M where Alabama literally curb stomps them. They're already tired of putting the SEC in there regardless, so I knew that wasn't going to happen. I'm kind of torn between, the college football playoff, you're supposed to get the 2 best teams, and clearly Georgia and Alabama are the 2 best teams, so what's the problem? I don't want to be naive about the situation. I'm an SEC fan, but even I can say it out loud. It's not good for the sport to see 2 SEC teams in the finals. Why is it not good? Because the Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, whatever, they don't have a dog in the race. If you're a Big 10 fan, you may hate Penn State, but when it's bowl season, you're kind of rooting for them because it's about pride and you want your conference to perform well. You see where I'm going with this. No other conference has a team in the race, so viewership, it's not going to be that high. I still think it's going to be okay, but for the sport, it's not okay. When you break it down and look at the facts, it is kind of funny that the SEC has somehow managed to break the college football system that was implemented to stop them. I do want to read this out to you. Josh Pate, who works for 24/7 Sports, said, "You're setting yourself up for disaster. You're setting yourself up for a 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 4 semifinal featuring all SEC teams." I agree with them 100%. If you do expand it to 8 or 12 teams, you're just giving Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, any okay or decent SEC team a better chance of getting in, and y'all don't want to see that, right? You're tired of the SEC. Right here, for example, I couldn't have said it any better. He tweeted out, "The best weapon to achieve parity in the CFP is having the smallest field possible. Alabama almost didn't make it this year. Georgia would be out in the BCS model. Expansionists are going to be heartbroken when they realize what expansion actually means." I'm going to add a little to it. I don't know if necessarily we'll see more SEC teams get in, but what I do see is, let's say Alabama, they have a down year, but you expanded the field to 8 or 12 teams. They could lose 2, maybe 3 games and somehow sneak into the playoff. And you guys don't want that. Because if Alabama manages a way to sneak into the playoff, even in a down year, they have so much experience and a great leader, which in college football matters a ton, they could sneak around and win it as a 12 seed. Until Nick Saban retires, I'll stand on this till the day I die, there won't be parity in college football. And it's as simple as that. You can make it 20 teams, you can make it 2 teams, 10 teams, whatever. The cream always rises to the top. It's the exact same thing with the NIL deals. You did that so Alabama wouldn't get all these 4- and 5-star recruits, and in reality, it's helping them get more, and it's the same thing with the transfer portal. If you throw in all these absurd rules to try to hurt the best programs, they're going to take them and throw it back in your face. Be honest with yourself, man. You don't want to see an 8-team or 12-team playoff for more teams. You want to see it because you're tired of the SEC. You have SEC fatigue and Alabama fatigue. Expanding the playoff will do nothing more but give the SEC and Alabama more chances to get into the playoff. In the past 10 years, 3 of them have featured all SEC championship games. It is what it is. If you are one of those wanting it to expand to 8 teams, I'm going to offer you this. We know Alabama and Georgia, they're going to be 2 of those 8 teams. You also got Texas A&M on the rise and possibly Ole Miss on the rise and maybe another SEC team. I'm telling you, you can see 4 to 5 SEC teams if you make it an 8-team playoff or 12-team. Texas A&M is due to have a breakout year, so at minimum, you're looking at 3. It is actually mind-blowing, and I'm having to sit back here and realize it myself. The SEC broke the college football playoff system, and it's only been here for what, 6, 7 years? I would like to say it's unbelievable and unreal, but once again, none of this would have happened if you wouldn't made it a 4-team playoff. I'm sure some of you have heard this quote and phrase, sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side. You thought the playoff was going to be better, and matter of fact, it made it worse for the rest of the country. If you're in the SEC, you're happy. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. I thought it was an interesting video, interesting topic. Took a long time to make, so I'd appreciate if you join our family, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, do all the nice stuff. And as always, let's be great. I'm out, y'all. Peace.